Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Medical Board of California's public stakeholder meeting. Pursuant to the provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N29-20, dated March 17, 2020, this meeting is being conducted via WebEx. Public comments will be heard for agenda items 2 through 4 for individuals wishing to do so. In order to be ready for public comment, we ask that you please ensure that your comments can be heard clearly by connecting to the audio of this meeting through the proper method. If you're having difficulty hearing the audio of this meeting, it could be because the device you're connecting with has bandwidth limitations. If you do have difficulty hearing the audio of this meeting using your device's audio, please click the ellipsis button at the bottom of the WebEx application or the communicate menu item at the top of the WebEx application, and then select audio connection. You will see an option to call in and will be provided with a telephone number, access code, and attendee ID that can be used to connect to the meeting's audio via phone. Using the information provided, it will automatically disconnect your device's audio and connect your phone to the name you joined the meeting with. By using this method, if you are having audio problems with your device, this will allow you to still participate and hear the audio of the board meeting. Please see the instructions on how to connect link on the last page of the meeting agenda for step-by-step WebEx instructions, including screenshots. President Lawson, you can now start the meeting.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you to all of our public stakeholders for attending our meeting this evening. I wanted to extend a special welcome to Dr. Hielzer. This is his first meeting as a board member of the Medical Board of California, and while we look forward to a more formal welcome at our upcoming August board meeting, it is certainly nice to have you on board, and we look forward to your participation on the board. Today, we do plan to hear. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Likewise. Today, we do plan to hear from the board staff to give updates on items that have been previously requested by our public stakeholders. And we intend, like our previous public stakeholder meeting, to have a dialogue with the public stakeholders after each of these updates. Each participant will be allotted 5 minutes to comment, and please do see page 2 of the agenda for WebEx instructions on how to connect from the link on the agenda and additional instructions. To be respectful of everyone's time, we do plan to, aim for about 30 minutes of dialogue for each agendized item. We do think that an open and honest dialogue between the public and the board is extraordinarily important. I wanted to acknowledge that I have heard from some of you that you're frustrated with the format, which of course is a format that is mandated by law and required to be followed. If we want to be able to share information with the public as a board and have all of the board members in attendance at the same time, unfortunately, the formality of agenda and compliance with the various laws that regulate our board are required. I know it sometimes seems formal and burdensome, and I do hope that once we're able to have in-person meetings, we'll be able to connect, in person in a way that perhaps feels a little less formal than these agendized items and the WebEx dialogue where you've got to raise your hand in a very formal way. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I do hope that, like at our previous public stakeholder meeting, that we will be able to have an open dialogue. I'm hoping that that the members of the public who are participating, looks like there's more than 20 at this point, will help us engage in that dialogue, notwithstanding sort of the inflexibility of the WebEx format. And just one final item before we get started with the meeting, please do not discuss any pending complaints or pending license applications or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the board for a decision. That, of course, can compromise the integrity of the board's processes. I wanted, before I go to Mr. Prasivka, I just wanted to ask if any board members have any quick opening comments before we move into the agenda.
If I may, Madam President.
Oh, please, Ms. Lubiano.
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know that I have a hard stop at around 6:45, so I just wanted to let everyone know about that.
Thank you, and that's a good reminder to me. The meeting is scheduled to run from 5:30 to 7:30. We'll try to stick as close to that time frame as possible. And Ms. Lubiano, we do understand that you're going to need to leave a few minutes early. Anyone else before we get started? All right, hearing none. Mr. Prasiska, please, agenda item 1.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Just a few brief remarks. The executive has been taking directions from the board and engagement with the board and listening to the concerns of the public stakeholders, have undertaken a number of discrete projects to seek to increase communication and engagement with our public stakeholders. We thought this would be a very good opportunity for the executive to brief all parties on progress that has been made on these discrete projects. We have undertaken and we've completed a video explaining the complaints process. We have done considerable work in terms of building a complaint tracking system so that third parties, the public and others, can track the progress that has been made on a complaint. And a considerable amount of work has been made to rebuild the website to make it much more user-friendly, and we can give a briefing on that. Also, just to inform that there will be a parallel track of further engagement, which will be undertaken by the Public Outreach, Education, and Wellness Committee, and there will be a public meeting on that next week. And what we hope to do, among other things, is to describe in more detail progress that has been made to further enhance engagement with complainants in the complaint process. So without further ado, I would like to us to go and look at our new video, and I'd like to turn it over to Carlos Villatoro, who is our Public Information Manager.
Thank you, Bill. Hello, board. Hello, public. My name is Carlos Villatoro. I'm the Public Information Manager for the Medical Board of California. My comments will be brief to allow maximum time for public dialogue and input. This is a video that the enforcement unit has been wanting to do for quite some time, and we are pleased to present it to you today. The board's Office of Public Affairs worked closely with the enforcement unit to develop the video content and provide tips that consumers can use to maximize the effectiveness of their complaint. While we know that the information presented in this video will be nothing new to some people who understand the process, we hope that the video will provide useful information to those who may have never filed a complaint with the board and may not know what to expect when they file one. The purpose of showing this video today, before it is finalized, is to give the public an opportunity to make suggestions to improve the video and make it more useful for California healthcare consumers. I'd like to point out that this is the first of many videos the Office of Public Affairs plans to produce regarding its enforcement and licensing functions, and the ideas and suggestions that are provided today will assist us in developing future video and podcast content. I'd like to now turn it over to Sean to play the video.
Hey guys, and while I load the video, I'd just like to let anyone know that if you do have any audio problems hearing the video or seeing the video, the agenda item also has a link to the video under the agenda item that we're speaking on here. So let me go ahead and pull this up. We'll start it right now.
The Medical Board of California is here for you.
The board's mission is consumer protection, and it accomplishes this mission through the licensing and regulation of physicians and certain allied healthcare professionals in California.
Do you have a question about an incident at a doctor's visit or surgery, or believe you were mistreated and want to file a complaint? Reach out to the board. We're here to help. The sooner you file a complaint, the better, as the statute of limitations prevents the board from reviewing matters that happened more than 7 years ago, except in special circumstances. Contact us if you have a question about special circumstances. We're happy to answer any questions and walk you through the process.
The board licenses and investigates complaints against physicians and surgeons, licensed midwives, polysomnographic trainees, technicians and technologists, research psychoanalysts, and student research psychoanalysts. The board has no jurisdiction, however, over nurses, physician assistants, doctors of osteopathic medicine, chiropractors, optometrists, hospitals, insurance companies, or any other healthcare professional or entity. Complaints made to the medical board regarding those professions are forwarded to the appropriate licensing board or entity.
The Department of Consumer Affairs website provides a list of the various healthcare licensing boards that can be useful in helping you determine with whom to file your complaint.
The board has little to no authority over billing or insurance issues, bedside manner, physician demeanor, office staff demeanor, or length of time spent waiting in a doctor's office unless the behavior interferes with the safe delivery of health care. The board cannot assist consumers in obtaining medical care or financial compensation for medical malpractice.
Filing a complaint with the board is the first and most crucial step of the board's investigative process. The board has some tips that you can follow to help the board understand what happened and investigate the matter. Complaints can be filed online on the board's website or by filling out the complaint packet and sending it to the board. The complaint form takes approximately 20 minutes to fill out, so the board recommends you set aside some time that can be dedicated to this step. Handwriting can be difficult to read. We recommend typing your complaint summary in a separate Word document, then either cutting and pasting it into the complaint form or attaching it to the completed paper form. Be sure to fill out all the questions to the best of your ability, including names and dates of birth. Contact information is especially important, such as your phone number and email address when available.
Write a chronological sequence of what happened, including dates. Stick to the facts and the reason for your complaint. Think through what was said and what happened, and if you have any witnesses, such as a family member, nurses, or other healthcare providers that may have witnessed the incident, please make sure to include their information in the complaint. Let us know if you attempted to reach out to the specific provider or facility to discuss your concerns, and if so, what happened as a result of the interaction. Attach copies of the documents to support your complaint. This may include patient records, photographs, audio or video recordings, correspondence including email or text messages, billing statements, proof of payments, autopsy or toxicology reports, death certificates, a police report, court documents, etc. Along with the support documents mentioned, we will need a signed release form which is included in the board's complaint application for the board to obtain your medical records, which is a crucial part of any given investigation. You may also need to sign a specific release form if the physician is not the custodian of your medical records. In addition, list all other subsequent treating facilities or relevant subsequent treating providers specific to your complaint. We need a release from you to obtain your medical records.
If the incident involves a surgical procedure, it is important that you list any pre-op or post-op providers. If you were treated at a Kaiser Permanente facility, you will also need to complete a special release form specific for that facility. You may find yourself having to submit all three depending on your circumstances. If you need assistance in filling out the form, you're welcome to contact board staff who would be happy to assist you. If the patient is deceased, the person signing the release forms must be a legal representative as demonstrated on a durable power of attorney, death certificate, or an executor of an estate or will.
When filing your complaint online, you'll receive notification that we received your complaint, followed by an acknowledgement letter. If you filed by mail, you will receive the same acknowledgement letter once the complaint has been processed. If your complaint concerns the care and treatment you received from a physician, the analyst will request copies of your medical records and a written summary of your care from the physician, with your authorization for release of medical information. The analyst may contact any subsequent physicians listed on your authorization form. When the requested records have been received, you will be notified that your complaint is being sent to a medical consultant for review. This review is completed by physicians practicing in the same medical specialty as a physician named in your complaint. If the medical consultant determines that a violation may have occurred and more investigation is needed, the matter is referred to the Division of Investigation, Health Quality Investigation Unit. During the investigation, you may be contacted for more information.
For more information about the medical board's enforcement process, please call our Consumer Information Unit at 1-800-633-2322 or visit the board's website at www.nbc.ca.gov. To file a complaint against a licensee or for questions, contact the Central Complaint Unit directly at 916-263-2727 2528. Complaints may be submitted through the Breeze online system, which you may access on the board's website at www.nbc.ca.gov, by email at complaint@nbc.ca.gov, by fax at 916-263-2435, or by mail at 2005 Evergreen Street, Suite 1200, Sacramento, California, 95815.
That was the video. And now we would like to turn it back over to Madam Chair for comments from the public and from board members.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you to the team for putting that together. Do board members have comments now, or would you like me to open it up for public comment?
No, this is Ryan Brooks. I do have a comment.
Please.
First is great job. We obviously have a very professional and incredible team to put such a great quality video together, so I appreciate it. You know, one of the things we might want to think about is at the end of that video, you know, there's a process of, you know, how to submit. Then what happens? Do they get a receipt saying their video's been received? Is there an email that goes back out that says, well, here's the processing time. It's going to take 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or when you'll get notified? Because, you know, once people submit something that's very personal to them, you know, am I going to get, you know, be notified tomorrow, or does it take 6 months? And it'd be nice to be able to manage expectations with the, you know, then what happens type of portion of that video. But great job. Those are my suggestions.
Dr. Hawkins, may I speak?
Please, please.
I think it's a very good start. I think it's jam-packed with a lot of information. So I think that as I was listening to it carefully and taking notes, I found that I want to revisit this, revisit that. So I would encourage everyone watching the video to take notes, and feel free to view it multiple times to get the information that they need in the direction they need. I did confirm the numbers. I dialed one incorrectly initially, but the numbers are correct. That's all my comment.
Thanks, Dr. Hawkins. Additional comments? I think I saw Ms. Lubiano.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. A few things. I think it's great that we offer videos because people learn different ways. I like how we varied the presentation by using animations, and I like how, as you know, as Carlos, for example, is speaking, you know, the points are listed. You know, I think that that's really good. The part where, towards the beginning, where we say contact us, it might be nice to actually flash the contact information there. I know it's at the end, but some people may have short attention spans and may not want to watch all the way to the end. So I'd say put that up front as well. Also, like there are parts where he talked about what we didn't have authority for. I'd suggest listing that out as well. Also, I see that in the video, those that are portrayed as doctors appear to be men. It might be nice. You know, I would suggest also showing a woman doctor there. And then another point we might want to make to tell consumers is that this enforcement process is separate than any kind of legal action or that they may be entitled to. So that might be an important point to make as well. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is TJ. Yeah, the video was informative. It was good. And I always encourage a little bit more transparency, and thereby I want to bring a point up that is going to be a little muted in a way. But we are building an expectation that there's transparency. When we have a history of, this is the easy part, is how transparent are we going to make the rest of the process? And I know we're going to talk about the tracking system and all of it, but the start of, we can't have a bright light and then it goes dark down the stream. And so I just want to encourage everyone to really think ahead when we make more videos as to how we can continue to build the public trust. That's my comment.
I'll just add, I agree it was a great start. Some things to think about, I'm sure folks have, but just wanted to highlight language accessibility, making this available in Spanish and so on, other languages, closed captioning, just making sure it's as accessible to all of our communities as possible. I hear folks that we're going to do an entire series of videos, so I'm happy to hear that because I agree with earlier comments that there is a lot of information, and then there's the and then what piece of it. So making sure that we're comprehensive and cover every part of the process.
Thank you. Additional comments? All right, I think I am going to go to the public, and Sean, I think you might have to help me manage this. I'm not sure I can see the hands being raised, but I believe you can.
Yeah, I can go ahead and call out the names for you, Ms. Lawson.
Thank you.
So anyone who would like to make a public comment, we are activating the Q&A feature. You just have to type in anything in there and we'll call on you by name, or you can use the hand raising feature. Some people find some easier than others, so please feel free to use whichever one you'd like. First up, we have Hannah Reed. Hannah, please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yes, this is Hannah Ree of Black Patients Matter. I want to first thank the medical board for their progress and for allowing us a seat at the table and considering our input. So I have a serious concern about this video. I don't see the video is an opportunity to let the state know, to let patients know that we are aware of the times, we're aware of health equity and decreasing the healthcare disparity. And so this video does not reflect it. So in terms of our patient population, African American patients, I don't see enough representation in that video. What I see is that it did not consider, when it was directed, written, and produced, whoever had put that together did not consider healthcare disparity, underrepresented patient groups, who is dying of COVID the most, who is affected the most by hypertension, diabetes, heart disease. I mean, so I have a serious concern about the video. It does not represent the patients who are dying the most. It does not represent it at all. And in addition to that, also the comment that was made about there needs to be more than just males in the video. So what I saw as far as your medical experts, medical consultant, HQIU, is the same thing I've been saying all 3 years, is that I've never seen a Black officer that works at HQIU. I've never seen a person of color medical expert. Just don't see it. And why is that? I've been asking that myself. So I do not see diversity there. I see maybe someone who ignores diversity or is not aware or ignorant to the fact that African American patients are dying at the highest rate of several diseases. So that I would suggest maybe considering consulting, contracting with a healthcare equity officer. So I understand we have a state surgeon general, but I don't know what her role is. But thank you again for an opportunity to have a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, we have Susan Lauren. Susan, are you there?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. It's really difficult to know where even to start because it just seems like a joke. It seems like I'm in the Twilight Zone. You know, Saul Berger assaulted me. He disabled me. There's no doubt it was an assault. It's res ipsa loquitur. I followed all your steps. I typed everything. I gave contact information, wrote chronological sequence. I actually, some of the board officers mocked me for giving too much information. Family members wrote in, friends, doctors wrote scathing letters. A doctor took a video in his office and said 100% this is surgical assault. My family member said I was bleeding out, bloody mess. I'm sorry, I'm tired, and that's why my voice sounds like this. I'm in a lot. The guy destroyed my body. I've sent videos, and I hope everyone has seen it by now, and I'm really confused as to why you're not all outraged that Berger is still working and that Dubrow, who came and lied at my trial, is one of your experts. So I did all the steps, and I couldn't get a police report because the police said it's out of their jurisdiction, it's in the jurisdiction of the medical board, and that prevents assault from going to the police. So I'm not understanding your video at all. And also, you know, when people are harmed as badly as I am, they go to trial because they're unable to work anymore. I was taken out of the workforce. I ran my own businesses that were successful that I loved. And I couldn't, after he did this to me, I've been on my feet since 2011. He removed the part of the body that I sit on. Why? For no reason. I didn't ask for it. I didn't need it. He stabbed me into my kneecaps, my hamstrings. This is a full-on, this is like a Dr. Dunch miniseries waiting to happen. And I don't understand why you're making these little videos and acting like you're doing the right thing. So then you try to get to trial, and the lawyers tell you, don't go to the medical board yet. So, and then, you know, the women I've connected with, as I've told you repeatedly, and you know that, hundreds of women read thousands and thousands of reviews. They're gagged or they're threatened. They're in too much trauma and too much pain. They don't come to your board. They know what you do to people like me. They know. And some of them that I know that did come to your board, like Cynthia, who claims to have been harmed by Terry Dubrow's teacher, Dr. Lesavoy at UCLA. You can see her, blog at elitemdbotched.com, and you'll see the pictures right away, elite, E-L-I-T-E, mdbotched.com. She has a lot of good information there. You also didn't do anything for her case. And so it's like you've got these, you're giving license to maim and kill. And anyway, I can say more later because I know a lot of people want to talk, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to express that they're baffled like I am. It doesn't make sense to me. You got to, if you're not doing the right thing, what do all the videos in the world mean? Seriously. How can you let Berger and Dubrow continue to work? That is not protecting the public. Okay, that's not protecting the public, not at all. So your video means nothing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Wendy Connect. Wendy, are you there?
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds like maybe the audio is turned up a bit. We can hear a bit of an echo.
Let me turn it down, sorry. How's this?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll be brief. To TJ's point about managing expectations, I think the video is very informative, but I think the one thing that's lacking is giving people timeframes of what to expect. And we all know that it takes a very long time. And so I think, you know, people get, you know, as a complainant, you know, you put your heart into these things, as TJ said, and then all this information is so good that you follow everything to the letter, but they need to know how long response time could take. So that's just my suggestion. I would put something in there so that you can manage people's expectations, because it's a really big thing when people do a complaint. And obviously, you know, they're highly motivated after something horrific has happened. So I think putting the information that you did about saying the things that you don't have jurisdiction over are very valuable, but then also let them know what they can expect down the line. That's it.
Thank you for your public
Thank
comment.
you for that comment. And that comment just brought up something in my mind, which is it might be useful to add to the video some reference to the other departments or agencies that we coordinate with on these types of complaints. I know, for example, that for matters where a criminal prosecution, for example, is underway separately, sometimes the medical board medical board process can be delayed because of interagency coordination on those matters. So it would be useful for us to find a way to communicate, the different tracks and other agencies that we're coordinating with, as well as providing, to TJ's point and to the commenter's point, some more expectations or details about what complainants can expect with respect to timing.
Madam Chair, I want to clarify what I meant with that. You see, what I meant with being transparent and managing expectations, it was very specific, and I apologize for not being more clear. The expectations that I want to manage is the last caller mentioned that it's a really big thing for people to file this complaint. And so it takes a tremendous amount of courage because they've been harmed, and they've been harmed by a trusted source. And when they've been harmed by a trusted source, the expectation is that the medical board is going to do something. And the prior caller, Susan, mentioned that she did everything right. And we hear that time and time again. And what I meant with managing expectations is there's a possibility that you could do everything right and this can still not go your way. And unfortunately, that happens most of the time, as in, 96.5% of the time. And so how do we create better numbers? That's what I meant. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to the public.
Okay, next up we have Marion Hollingsworth. Marion, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name is Marion Hollingsworth, and I'm a patient safety advocate. I have watched the complaint process video several times, and my impression is it will discourage people from filing complaints. Telling people they need to find witnesses will only backfire. It's extremely rare for a doctor to serve as a witness against another doctor. Nurses and other healthcare workers will never give their last names to patients, and hospitals and nursing homes will protect those names as well. Also, siding with the patient will land a nurse in a lot of trouble. This happened to 3 nurses who filed a complaint against a San Diego doctor a couple of years ago. I also know harmed patients who somehow managed to find a doctor to write a letter to the board on their behalf, only to have their complaints dismissed anyway. It's also unreasonable in death cases to demand that the complainant be a POA or executor. Not everyone has been able to make those legal arrangements before an unexpected death happens. The California Department of Public Health allows anyone to file the complaint. So why does a medical board insist on the complainant being a POA? You are putting up more barriers for people to be able to file complaints. As far as keeping a complainant updated, that just doesn't happen. The investigator assigned to my case lied to me several times and never gave me accurate updates. It even took a year and a half after the decision for the board to post a reprimand this doctor finally got. I've also been waiting on an update from another doctor complaint I filed as an advocate. I was told in early 2020 that the case is still under review and that my name was still on the complaint. Another complainant I have been helping has not received any update in her case in about 6 months. Other than that, it's been received. So you board executives are going to have to work with your investigators to make sure they update consumers on the status of their complaints, because what you think is happening with the communication is not. And I do agree with Wendy Connect that you need to tell people it will take 3 years to resolve their complaint if it goes to investigation. Please redo this video to make changes so it adequately reflects what is happening with investigations and the complaint process, and stop putting up barriers for people to file complaints. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Eric Anders. Eric, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, first of all, this is a topic for the regular meeting. You're wasting our time by doing this at the public advocate meeting. This is supposed to be topics that the public want to talk to you about, not what you want to talk to us about. This is a very misleading video. This is propaganda. This is you trying to make yourselves look good. And you all even just sit there as you're watching this, and then you come on with your comments, and all it seems like you all feel obligated to say only good things about the video. This is the most amateurish video I've ever seen. Why did you let Carlos do it? He's an amateur. You should be hiring a professional to do this. You're a government agency, not a high school video class. Carlos is not qualified to produce videos. You should not be letting him do this. The two hosts of the video were awful. The woman couldn't even speak properly. She said statute of limitations. In the video, they say you're here to help, but you make no mention of your dismal disciplinary rate. The 70% of the complaints will be closed. You have a newsletter that's in your archives where you warn doctors that complaints against them, most of them will be closed. You're willing to tell your licensees that the complaints will be closed, but you're not willing to tell the public. You want us to jump through hoops to give you all this information on these public complaints, and yet you're not truthful with us. You're not going to tell them that their complaint has a 90% chance of being closed and it will never go anywhere. Why should we go through all these hoops? Why should we provide you with all this information if most of the complaints are going to be closed anyway? The video was just ridiculous, and shame on all of you for feeling obligated to be so supportive of everybody all the time. Come on, get on these people. Get on Carlos. That was a tacky video. Tell them, you guys should be hiring professionals to do this. You're a government agency, for Pete's sake. Come on, guys.
Thanks for your public comment. Next up, we have Michelle Montserrat Ramos. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Montserrat Ramos, and I'm with Consumer Watchdog. I have asked for years for this one simple task: to take the medical expert and medical consulting training presentations and place them into a video. You can title it, "This is what the board is looking for when you file a complaint." Consumers and families want to know exactly what you're looking for in a complaint that will move their complaint into the accusation stage. It's as simple as that. Why is this so difficult for you to implement? You have the data, you have the presentations. You wasted money you don't have, and you wasted your time and our time with this video. The information you are providing in this video is not accurate. Your customer service operators are not helpful. They do not answer questions. I've had families and advocates harassed by your customer service reps. I've had this conversation in the past with Kim. Kim said she would have a talk with the customer service reps. I'm sure she did, but the inferior customer service still occurs. You do not conduct interviews with families unless they fit within the 10% that somehow gets passed to analysts at the Central Complaint Unit. You don't keep families updated. There is no communication. Even the content in the expert reviewer material would have been helpful. The problem is that you sent a letter to the legislature stating that you would give us these couple of concessions, but in reality, you are giving consumers and families nothing, because this video will not help one single family file a consumer complaint. I work with families across the state of California. I'm working with families who have just lost family members just months ago and are not familiar with your process at all. This video will not help them. Give us the video that families need. Scrap this video and use the medical expert and medical consultant training material, PowerPoint presentations you have in your possession and throw them into a video titled, "This is what we're looking for in a consumer complaint." You can do this. This is insulting. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Alka Eri. Alka, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Alka Eri. I believe there is a disconnect between how the medical board views the complaint process and what actually occurs. This video does not describe the process I experienced or that others have experienced either. For example, the video gives the impression that medical board staff are available to meet in person or readily speak with consumers over the phone, but this is not true. Also, the video states supporting documents like medical records, photographs, and audio-video recordings can be uploaded through the medical board's website, but that is technically not possible. These files are far too large to upload. Your website can only handle files consisting of a few pages only, and yet medical records can be thousands of pages long. Hospitals put security settings on medical records, so relevant pages can't even be extracted. The video also fails to mention that supporting documents can only be uploaded electronically at the time the initial complaint is submitted. After that, the only way to send documents is by mail or fax. I tried getting an email address, but medical board staff told me there wasn't one to receive documents. They told me faxing was the fastest way. It's interesting the video mentions audio-visual recordings are accepted because medical board staff told me they weren't. I had audio recordings to substantiate my complaint, but the medical board refused to consider this evidence. The video glosses over the role of the medical consultant, and yet this is the most important aspect of the process. The video fails to mention that medical consultants remain anonymous to consumers, but not to physicians. And medical consultants do not interview consumers or physicians. Medical board staff told me medical consultants send physicians a questionnaire in lieu of an interview, but it's optional to complete. Naturally, since it's optional, physicians rarely respond. While I appreciate the medical board assembling a video to explain the consumer complaint process, it needs to reflect the reality of the process. The video gives many false impressions of complaint intake, documentation, and the role of the medical consultant. Bias in favor of physicians and lack of transparency around the complaint process is what fuels public distrust of the medical board. Presenting an inaccurate video only strengthens this public distrust. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Genevieve Claverill.
Yes.
Genevieve, please go ahead.
Can you, did you unmute me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
You know, first of all, it would have been great if the video had been accessible before the meeting, where we could watch it before the meeting, you know, as a attached document. I think that's a beginning. I think the issue, and I personally myself, I have filed complaint on poor quality of care. One of them where I die on a table. And to this day, I'm still waiting a reply of, you know, what happened and why do I have that both cardiac and respiratory arrest. And I think one of the big issue I have with the board is that you never allow to present the fact where, as a member of the public, can hear what's going on. So the public never know which physician are performing well to the one who are not. And I think we need to find a way where physicians are not placed in jeopardy for unfair complaint, but by the same token, the public could know of what's going on. So I don't know how to work it out, but I think it needs to be evaluated where poor performing physicians are taken out of the system, and also patients do not wrongly accuse somebody. So you go to have people who can monitor that and make sure that there is a very specific delay where the board need to respond and so on. So, but it's a good beginning. But like I said, it's an area where people go to have to really be honest and look at what's really going on. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Anne Fuqua. Anne, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Are you able? Okay, great. Okay, great. My name is Anne Fuqua. I have primary generalized dystonia and arachniditis. I have been on a high but stable dose of opioids for over a decade. I think if you include the previous comments along with your current video, you will have done a very good job of explaining the complaint process. It's ironic to me that it was this day 27 years ago that I had orthopedic surgery as a 14-year-old teenager that went horribly wrong due to a physician's negligence. The mistakes made on this day are a major part of the chronic pain that I now experience. Aside from simplifying the complaint process, I think preventing harm in the first place is important. Aside from the traditional malpractice most people think about, the abandonment and tapering of patients and tapering of opioids, despite terms like elevated, signs of impending harm, like elevations in blood pressure and pulse, that are secondary to uncontrolled pain, are a growing source of patient harm. I maintain a database of deaths in chronic pain patients, as reported by friends, family, and mainstream media reports. At present, I have documentation of over 600 suicides. This isn't just an issue of patients with uncontrolled pain taking their lives, though. I also have information about over 100 fatalities from myocardial infarctions, cerebral vascular accidents, and ruptured aneurysms. These occurred in the context of tapering or uncontrolled pain, where there was no effort made to treat the patient's pain. California's Intractable Pain Act is a major reason that I have the quality of life that I now enjoy. And that patients like myself are rapidly losing access to medications, though. And most physicians, they truly want to help, but they're in between a rock and a hard place with the regulatory measures that make them fear for their license or even their freedom. And continuing to prescribe for a patient on like me, that's doing well and does not have any signs of sleep apnea, hormonal abnormalities, or any other adverse effect from from these medications, but dramatic functional improvement, and they wind up having to they look at here's their family. They've got to take care of their family, their wife, their wife or their husband, their children, or do they put themselves out there for this patient, but then risk risk their family, their practice, their ability to care for the rest of their patients. We need safe harbor provisions that allow physicians to take care of patients like me, patients like Louis Ogden. His wife was not able to be here tonight, but she's spoken before. I think you might remember her from the last meeting. We're just normal human beings that, have, the misfortune of, maybe an accident or a genetic disease, or, a lot of times, medical malpractice, and then, often, we have, metabolic abnormalities, in the combination of the two, of these factors, it's why we would wind up needing these higher doses. And even when we're using these medications responsibly, it's becoming, nearly impossible, for us to be able to stay on something that's helping us. And I would just ask that you work work to get some safe harbor provisions so that doctors can treat patients safely, but also protect people from developing OUD, having an overdose, and just to do the best for each individual patient. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have an individual identified as W. Bram. W, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
I am somewhat new to addressing the board, so please be patient with me. I viewed this video, and I am now over 1,628 days into a complaint with the board. So you can imagine that I might have a different perspective. What is conveyed in this video is not the reality of what people who are trying to gather information and to go through your system and process. You're making false statements, false expectations that you're conveying to the consumer that there's actually going to be someone to answer the phone or answer their question, or the fact that an investigator could even inform the complainee in the process. It just does not happen. The fact that this board, I guess, has switched over in the last 3 years by contracting out investigators. You have no standards or expectations or qualifications for these investigators. You don't know what they're doing. You don't have any control of their conduct. They are a contracted service from what I've been told. And they don't have the equipment of accurately recording a complaint. But the fact that you're asking complaintees to submit medical records and medical documents, that is a very costly expense for a complaintee to do because your system does not allow the downloading of the needed files. Medical records alone, in my case, involved 8 maximum capacity CD discs. The reality is that information is going to have to be obtained directly by an investigator to the medical facility. And to have the complainee do that into a system that you can't even handle it's just a bunch of wasted time or putting more obstacles in front of complainees. The fact that you're even spending money on doing videos riles me to no end because you don't have the backup or the ability to provide the service that you say that you have. And I would discourage you from producing any more videos. What you do have an obligation to do, which is not online, is to provide an accurate flow chart so complaintees can understand and know what the process is. And all stakeholders, the complainee and the medical board, has to be able to deliver in order to gain trust with the public. The fact right now that if a hospital files an 805 complaint and an individual files an 805 complaint, that individual currently gets wiped from your system. I had to fight for over a year and a half to even be recognized as a complainee, to even receive communication. You have the ability to update your website to provide all of information and not just what happens after the complaint. You need to define an accurate length of time that it's going to take for you to process these. You need to explain what happens when there's an investigation. You need to explain who does the rolling and how. You need to explain how your medical board has subpanels that hear complaints, and what that subpanel can do, meaning accept the judgment of a judicial hearing, change the recommendation of a judicial hearing from a suspension or revoking of a license. You need to provide the consumer the ability to know what happens once a license is revoked. So that stakeholder, your consumer that you serve, and that consumer who you are there to protect has the right and the ability to participate and follow the process. 4.5 years into this, and it's not resolved. 4.5 years into this, and I find out that the delay by the medical board to prosecute or hear the hearing and hear the evidence delayed because the statute of limitations had run out by DA to criminally prosecute someone. So how can you spend money to promote a video directing the public to do things that you can't provide that service, because you're just creating more distress and frustration within your system? You have the ability to do this better. You have the ability to cut the production costs maybe to a quarter, and just put those key presentations on the website to a link.
Please conclude.
You know, for goodness sakes, on the WebEx, there's not even real clear directions on how to participate in a meeting, nor was there a clarification on public comment for items that are not on the agenda. You can do better, and you should be doing better. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Christina Hildebrand. Christina, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Hi there, Christina Hildebrand from A Voice for Choice Advocacy. We educate and advocate for informed choice and transparency of what goes into your body, be it food, air, water, pharmaceuticals. I have spoken to the board many times on this topic. I will say I'm going to keep it brief because I completely agree with Wendy, Mary, and W, who just spoke. The video just doesn't do justice to what actually happens. I think the timing, I won't reiterate everything that they said, but on a key piece, the timing of what actually happens needs to be, and I think a flow chart would be a great idea to go through each of the steps and about how long it will take. I will also say that I think you should publish the medical board put out, or not the medical board, CDPH put out a list of the 9,000 plus doctors that have ever been disciplined because those medical exemptions written for vaccines for school children, written by those doctors have been revoked now. So our organization has gone through about 4,000, about half of those doctors. And what is clear from them, we've looked at whether their medical licenses have been revoked or whether they've been put on probation, what the reason was for their medical, revocation or their disciplinary action. And what is very, very clear is that opioid issues, vaccine issues, marijuana issues prior to marijuana becoming somewhat legal in this state are the key reasons for disciplinary action. So I think the other fair thing to do would be to tell consumers, because what I'm hearing from others is not what happens in our doctors that we have representation of case, is that it takes forever, or they get who gets revoked and who gets put on disciplinary action. It was also clear that the majority get put on probation. when you read their summaries and their accusations, they were supposed to have their licenses revoked, but the medical board has decided to put them on probation for 3 years or 5 years with different contingencies. I really think it would be helpful for consumers, patients, to see which type of disciplinary accusations actually go anywhere. It seems that the real ones, the ones that are clearly egregious, that we hear about on these calls, every single call of medical, as the one woman called it, rape or messing up of their bodies, nothing's happening with them, it seems. But yet, when it comes to the vaccine issue, every single doctor that has been brought forward on the vaccine issue goes through the process, and quite fast, much faster than the 4 years that it takes other people. Same thing with the opioid crisis. And don't get me wrong, I think the opioid crisis is an issue. But at the same time, it seems that there is absolutely a political agenda of doctors you want to make a example of versus the actual patients that are being harmed. And so I just would ask you to also make that data clear. Because I think when you have the expectation, and also the expectation that your doctor, however egregious whatever they do, it is very unlikely that their medical license is actually revoked. It is much more likely that they are put on probation and have to do, whatever courses they have to do. But it is much more likely that that happens than their medical license is actually revoked. Because I think there are some people, as TJ said, there are people, and I think it was Wendy that said it, or maybe Mary, but the people put their heart and souls into they put their heart and souls into putting forward these claims. And if you knew that all that was going to come out of it, or what the most likely outcome that was going to come of it was that the doctor gets put on probation for 3 years, I think some patients would decide differently, which I don't think is the correct answer, by the way. But I think some patients would say, do I want to go through this hell for 4 years of my life trying to prove that I have been done wrong, when all that's going to happen is he's put on probation with a few, medical courses? Anyway, as I said, I defer to the people who have spoken before, because I don't think this video does any justice. I personally would prefer to see you spend your time and money to actually getting the information out there on your website without a video. It's great having a video for people that learn best that way, but honestly, this video doesn't do justice to what's needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Tracy Dominguez. Tracy, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Tracy Dominguez. The complaint process was a nightmare for my family. It was impossible for my complaint to be heard. The video would not have helped me at all. I had to reach out for help, and if I would have not had help with my complaint, it would not have met the central complaint unit. I'm just an average mother, and there are a lot of average moms and fathers out there who are filing complaints. You need to listen to us and provide us with a video that actually helps mothers and families like mine. Just tell us exactly what you're looking for in a complaint. That is all we want. I thought you wanted to rebuild the trust of the public. This video is not rebuilding the trust of the public. Remember, we are either grievance-stricken or we are dealing with a lot of stress, and we really need you to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. At this time, I do not see any additional questions to you, Ms. Lussman.
Dr. Hawkins, there's a person, Billy Early. I see his name down there. He's unable to type in his name. Has a phone number. I don't know if we could do anything with that or not. Billy Early.
I don't have any way to dial out Dr. Hawkins.
Oh, okay.
But there is contact information about how to dial in. My understanding is, Sean, so that person can.
To request to speak, you can dial in, you can just hear, but to request to speak, you do need to connect through a computer.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully,
and if
that information.
If the commenter would like to try to get that person on speakerphone, I could put the commenter back on and let them try to play the audio that way. I don't know how well that would turn out, but that's something we could try.
Okay. The commenter can put some more information back in the Q&A if there's, we'll try again next time. Okay. Back to the board, I guess. Are there any additional comments? Do we have feedback based on what we've heard? Does anyone have a follow-up for anyone that we've heard from?
Madam Chair, this is TJ.
Please.
Yes, once again, the feedback that we get from the public is contradictory to what we are producing. So I just want to take a quick moment. We did this video to help inform the public, and the public is now informing us that this particular video will not have helped them in the complaints process at all. And some suggestions have been made. I would like to suggest that we, take actually some written ideas from some of the folks that called in, and I've made some notes about how we could actually do this in a way that will actually help the complaints process. Because the point is that they see what I see. They see that this process takes in the complaints, and the complaints, getting the complaints is not the problem. It is further downstream. And how do we actually, what do they need to give us in order to have a successful case in the process? And I think that has been echoed many times. Tell us what you want from us in order to make this a successful complaint. And I would like the staff to look into what a summary would be. Someone mentioned something about the medical expert trainers or the consultants training. I would personally would like to see that. I'm sure some of the other board members would like to see that too, so that we can get an understanding of why, when things go wrong, why it is in fact so. And it could be an information problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. To your point as well, there was an interesting comment made about dismissal of a complaint when a complaint was filed by someone else on either the same physician or the same issue. And I think it would be helpful, again, whether part of this video or separately, to have us provide some understanding of how that happens. I mean, we do, for example, there was a physician, or I guess I shouldn't speak about a particular case I know about, but in some cases, we have thousands of complaints that are filed about a specific physician, and so not all of them, I guess it's my understanding, not all of those advance, right? And so I guess even understanding how the complaint is processed, where there's a situation where multiple complaints perhaps were filed, or where the hospital filed its own report as it's required by law to do, would be useful. I do want, our next item is to talk about our online complaint tracking system, which is intended to provide more up-to-date information to complainants about where their complaint is in the process. So yeah, I know we're taking these kind of in pieces because the law requires us to agendize these items separately, but if it's okay with the board, I'd like to move on to that and then have us think about how these all interplay together. Are there additional comments before we move on, or staff have any comments they want to share?
Dr. Hawkins. Oh, sorry.
Dr. Hawkins, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that
Carlos?
I think there are a number of comments that were made, suggestions that have been made, and one big problem is the process of not being heard, even though information has been provided. so that giving additional information may not solve the problem or the concern of being heard and understood. I do have a question, which I'm not asking one to answer, is what does success mean? What does success mean to the complainant? And so that's something that needs to be asked, and it may be different for the complainant, one versus another.
Thanks, Dr. Hawkins. Any additional comments before we move on to the next item?
I had a comment, if I may.
Please.
At the beginning of my dialogue, I mentioned that this was not the last video that the board would be producing. And the thought to address some of the comments regarding what happens after the complaint is filed, we had planned actually the very next video to focus solely on the disciplinary process, to explain exactly what happens, what the timeframes are, where the complaints go, how do people get updated, who decides who is disciplined, how are they disciplined, what methodology does the board use. It talks about all of that stuff. And so, as you know, the video is a bit long. It's over 6 minutes long, and there is a lot of information there. The reason that we decided to focus on just this process is because you would not believe how many complaints come in regarding individuals that the board does not oversee. For example, we get tons of complaints on nurses, tons of complaints on PAs, and people just do not know that the board doesn't handle every single healthcare worker in California. So, you know, we heard from the commenters, and I can totally sense their frustration. But again, you know, this is not the last video that we will be producing. We have the capability to produce more videos on more specific topics. And so I just kind of want everybody to kind of keep an open mind about this whole process, because this isn't the end all be all of everything that we have planned. And this isn't also a standalone piece. I mean, we have tons of information on our website, tons of information on our social media channels. This is a supplemental aspect of our communication strategy. So this isn't the final word on the enforcement process or the complaint process to speak. And so that being said, I appreciate all of the comments that everybody made, and some of them were helpful, some of them weren't, but that's okay. Everybody has their own opinion. And we'll look forward to working and improving our videos, and this one in particular with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Any additional comments before we learn more about the online complaint tracking system?
You know, I do have maybe it's more of a question than a comment. Obviously, new to the board, so looking to learn the process and how it works. And so once we, upload all the medical records, are there specific items within those medical records that the unit is looking for? And the reason I asked that question is maybe we can put together a list. Here are the 5 most important things that we look for in medical, right? Because to upload thousands of pages and go through all that information is very arduous. And so if we had a list of the 5 things that the review board takes into account, that might make it more streamlined and easier to actually file the complaint in the first place. So just my thoughts. I don't know the answer to the question.
I think maybe we could clarify that they only have to upload records if they have them. They do not have to go out and request them on their own. And this is only to provide information to the medical consultant to, increase the information available for consideration. But ultimately, the board does have to get certified records. So it's only if they have them, not to create an additional task for a complainant to do.
Well, Carrie, I think my question is more of what part of the records are the most important for the consultant to review? And
I
so,
think that would be hard for staff to determine initially.
okay. Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're ready to move on to the online complaint tracking system.
Thank you, Madam President. This is Reggie Verghese. Before my presentation, I want to make a statement so that the minutes correctly reflect the intended purpose of the online complaint tracking system. In his opening comment, Mr. Prasvika made a statement that this platform is for public and third parties. However, this platform's access will be limited to the complainant only. I consulted with Mr. Prasvika on this, and I am stating this with his permission and approval. With that, let me give the board an update on this project. This is the online complaint tracking system. So since May 2021, project team with members from enforcement, legal, information technology, and executive divisions met 7 times to outline the project scope, brainstorm ideas, and discuss complaint tracking system data elements. And those data elements are in thousands of tables and thousands of elements. At present, our IT staff are working on complaint report that will detail disclosable complaint elements identified during complaint tracking system data discussion meetings. When completed, the report will be used for generating complaint samples for review before finalizing requirements and setting up discussions with DCA about the project plan. So in summary, several meetings have been held and information system branch staff have been developing the complaint data requirements for the complaint tracking system to identify the complaint elements that can be disclosed to the complainant. Next step, complete the complaint report and generate samples of random and complex complaints for MBC executive and legal to review while additional functional requirements are being developed and project plan is prepared and discussed with DCA Chief Information Officer for his approval. So with that, Madam President, I'm prepared to answer any questions the board have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Varghese. Are there any questions from the board members about the online complaint tracking system and the progress that's being made?
Madam Chair, this is TJ. Hi, Reggie.
Please.
This disclosable complaint elements that you speak of, have you consulted a group like the patient advocates that's currently on this call to say what they would like to see and then work backwards? Because if we work the other way, I'm always going to assume nothing is going to be disclosed at the medical board because that's kind of the legal veil that we use for everything. And I want to just understand those disclosable elements, if they are irrelevant to the actual people in the complaints process or they say nothing, they don't explain anything, then the whole point of it is actually pointless. And I don't mean to sound negative, but the truth is, if we present irrelevant information, that's kind of just an update that your complaint is at now at step 2. Okay, that's good. But if we can't disclose anything, then we're dragging people through the system by not giving them anything. And at the end of it, we say we can't actually do anything. So we have not actually served the process. We've done ourselves no favors. And we've actually harmed ourselves more because we have reinforced by putting a process like this in place. So the question that I have for Reggie is, these disclosable elements, are they relevant to the complainant?
Mr. Watkins, thank you for that question. So just to give you some update on that, we are really at the initial phase of this project. And I have written down your comment about maybe working with the patient advocates or patient or the public to see what they would like to see in that interface, that's your ask, and definitely we need to work with our legal team, and we will take it back to our discussion table, and I'm pretty sure we can give the board an update on your ask by the next update.
I have a question on the technology piece of it, because I imagine that's something that if we're committed to doing that, or this what you're talking about is something we can be doing on a parallel track, since that everyone's very motivated to see this tracking system online as soon as possible. So are there any updates on what that timeline of building something like this would look like?
It's a very good question, and I explored that with our IT team, and there are too many moving parts at this time, and I cannot give you a timeline at this time. And that is because we'll be relying on the outside sources like the DCA resources being available for this effort, because the data is not, even though the final front-facing application will be on the medical board's website is what we're hoping for, the back-end data have to come from DCA and the Breeze and some other resources. So we'll have to work with their timeline and their availability too. So since we are at the beginning of this project, we don't have any type those commitments from them. So it'll be very unorthodox and professional for me to make a commitment to the board at this time. So hopefully we'll get that. That's the first question that I asked, the project completion date, and that is a question mark on my book too.
Thank you. I do just want to offer a comment, which I think that this is a really important thing for us to get right. We have reviewed, and we review at all of our board meetings, timelines for, case investigation and resolution, and we see the aggregated data that speaks to individual timelines. We've heard from a commenter earlier this evening, right, about 1,000 days for resolution of a complaint. And all of us know that there are a variety of reasons for delays. I mentioned one earlier where there's a criminal prosecution that's underway. There are also other reasons for delays, and they can include defense attorney practice and the like as part of the process. And so I do think it's just incredibly important that we get some type of system in place, and that we do have relevant data, to Mr. Watkins' point earlier, but that if I'm a complainant, I can look and see that it's, with DOJ, or that there's litigation underway, and, here are the details about where it is in the process, because it can be mystifying as to what's happened after all that time, or why something is taking longer than we think it should. Maybe it's more complex. There are so many reasons why some things go faster and some things go slower. But even having the information available, I think, as to where something is in the process, will be useful information, and will arm our complainants with information they can then use. They'll be informed and educated, and they can have conversations with our board staff about where something is. So are there other comments before we ask the public to comment on the online complaint tracking system status? Dr. Hawkins, I see you took yourself mute, but I don't know if you want to comment. You're back on mute. All right. Let's open up the public comment line.
And I did leave the Q&A window and the hand raising feature activated, so I know some people queued up during the follow-up comments from the board members at the end of the last agenda item. So I'm going to go ahead and just go in order. If you no longer wish to make a comment, that's fine as well too. But if you're in the queue, I'm going to go ahead and call on you. So first up, we have Hannah Ree. Hannah.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you again, Medical Board, for allowing me a seat at the table. So the online complaint system, great idea. I mean, this is phenomenal. it's going to be wonderful because we have precedents we can follow. It could be a simple text message to the complainant about the status of their complaint, but something to consider in terms of the times that we live in. So, of course, again, I'm from Black Patients Matter, but also discussing our environment and global warming and carbon emissions. I'm deeply concerned that the period of time that it takes to bring a case to the hearing or to be filed for the accusation to be filed, the amount of time that it takes really is an extensive amount of carbon imprinting that we are um, dispersing into the environment in terms of electricity and in terms of driving the cars and getting to work and all that. So another system that we can utilize is mediation, a personalized mediation. As we know, there is too much money, I repeat, too much money that's going into the present system, that specifically being the AG's office, the Attorney General's office. They are not able to satisfy the consumers. As we know, they don't even contact the complainant. They never reach out to family members, loved ones, say, I'm sorry you're going through this. I want to help you. Let me give you a hug. None of that. That's not written into their job description. But for mediators such as myself and others, we are nonprofit. We will be there for the patient. We will discuss a settlement. We will come to terms with what resolution looks like, what justice looks like for that patient. And so, as anything in life, there has to be a compromise. All this litigation and paper filing, and it uses too much of our carbon resources. And so therefore we have to look at alternatives such as, well, granted the doctor did this, but he'll be fined $10,000, and that $10,000 can be used to build a beautiful park. It can be used to go towards seeing eye dogs, to plant trees. So we have to think outside the box and to help at least the family members and the complainants have a feeling that they're being heard. The system as it is now with the AG's office is broken. It's broken. Things like love, empathy, caring about, all that, it's not written into laws. That's the area that's gray, that makes us humans, and that's where mediation can work.
Ms. Reed, do you have comments on the online complaint tracking system?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It'd be helpful to keep comments
I'm just
on the
trying
topic.
to see who's talking. Oh, Carrie Webb from the AG's office. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want you to take it personally. In any event.
No, I'm not from the AG's office. I'm just interested if you have comments on the complaint tracking system. It would help to have your feedback on that idea. Thank you.
You're welcome. So she's not from the AG's office. She's a lawyer for something. In any event, so again, my comment is that we in California have the technology, the brain power, all the resources to put together an outstanding complaint tracking system. We can do it. It'd be nothing for us in Silicon Valley. But what we cannot do is to provide satisfaction, care, empathy, love, all of these qualities which makes us human. So that cannot be written into the laws. That has no place within the judicial system, and therefore we need to go to mediation. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have W. Brown. W, if I could ask you to turn down the speaker volume a little bit. I'm getting a lot of feedback on that. I'll go ahead and unmute your mic again. Let's see.
Now. Are you able?
If you have a second device on playing the audio of the meeting, that sometimes will create that echo. You could go ahead and even just turn your speaker volume down all the way while you're speaking. Maybe even let's try it. See it again. W, are you there? W? I'll come back around as we get through this queue here. So next up we have Genevieve Favriel again, I believe.
Just a minute.
Genevieve, go ahead.
Good afternoon again. You know, someone a few minutes ago, one of the commissioners, I think, mentioned to maybe identify the issue where important to point out when you file a complaint. I think that would be really helpful because sometimes you with a bunch of information is not important to you. But if we could have a way to outline issues who are important and need to be identified, I think that will help a lot. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. I'm going to go back to W. Brand.
Yes, you able to hear me now?
I think as long as I don't talk, we won't get the echo. So we'll let you go ahead.
Yes, I'm concerned about online complaint reporting and information. Who has priority to be a person?
I'm sorry, W, could we ask you to come closer to your device? You sound like you're very far away.
Okay.
It sounds almost like you're further away now. No, just barely, but it sounds like you've gotten even further away from the device you're connected with. Do you have a external microphone or something that might be behind something or somewhere? It's just very difficult to hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
No, it sounds like you're across the room from maybe where your microphone is.
Are you able to hear me now?
No.
Really not. Sean, let's just move on and maybe we can continue to try to troubleshoot that.
Okay, very well. Next up, we have Virginia Farr. Virginia?
Hi, thank you. I appreciate you putting this online. My question is, will this include an ILON database to track what types of errors and what types of trends you're seeing? Like if somebody's being injured by a certain type of liposuction or NovaSure or breast implants or that stuff, will you be able to see the trends and stop them before they happen? Or are you just tracking complaints and not getting into the preventative arena? And that's it. I think this is really vital to have if you want to deliver safe, effective care, is to prevent the error from happening in the first place. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Up next, we have Christina Hildebrand. Christina, are you there? Sorry, Christina, go ahead. I didn't quite hit you on the button.
Christina from A Voice for Choice Advocacy again. I think this is definitely a critical piece. The two comments that I would have, I completely agree that the stakeholders, the public stakeholders, the people that are on this call, that you need to have a conversation with us about what we would like to see on it. Because again, you know, to TJ's comments, and I think Christina echoed them, you know, if you don't have that, then this is pointless. I would say two things that I would like to see is, number one, not only where it is in the process, but who owns that part of the process. I think it's with the outsourcing of your investigation, with the judicial hearing, the appeals court being different, you know, I think it really would help to see who owns it. And also, you know, I know as consumers, there aren't phone numbers to call. There aren't places you can actually effectively get help on a specific, on your own investigation. But it would be nice to know, you know, if it's in the DCA's office, the investigation piece of it, this is the number you call. If it's, you know, going through the hearing, this is a support number that you call, because it seems to be quite disjointed. I would say the other thing that I would ask is, I know that it was said that only the complainant can view the process. Does that mean that the doctor being filed against cannot see the process? And I'm curious as to why that person wouldn't be able to see it. But also to the previous caller's comment, you know, it even if it's not the whole process, I've noticed that with some doctors currently, if they've been accused, that's now showing up on the license search, which it didn't used to. But now if you look, you know, if you know a doctor has been accused, it actually shows up and it gives you a little summary of, well, I should speak only for the vaccine cases because I have no idea on the other cases, but on the vaccine medical exemption cases, it does actually say what the accusation is about. It would be nice to have where in the process, and maybe you have updated, and just the ones that I've looked at haven't gone beyond the accusation process, but although no, I have ones that are in hearing and they've not been updated. But it would be nice to see on the medical license, if it's not accessible to everyone, that on the medical license search, it shows where in the process it is at, you know, any given accusation and disciplinary action. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Wendy Connect. Wendy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Oops. Let me turn this down. How's this? Is that better?
If you could turn down just a little bit more like earlier, I think we'll be able to cut that echo a little bit.
Is that okay?
We'll be able to get through it, yeah.
Okay, good. So my suggestion or my observation is that one of the big problems with the whole system is that there's zero transparency, which wastes a lot of time and efficiency. For example, in my case, which was originally filed in 2016 and then closed pretty much immediately, it was, oh, I'm sorry. Let me turn that off. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry. So that was closed immediately. And it wasn't until I sued and the case ended settled in 2018 that I saw documents that were presented initially that had I seen those documents, we could have saved, I mean, let's put it this way, my case is still being worked on by the medical board and the first complaint was in 2016. But had I seen those documents or been privy to any of that, I would have been able to communicate that they were fraudulent. So my suggestion to fix this whole system is to do something very similar to what the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office does. When you have a filing, just like you have a filing for a patent, you get a sign-in. And in the case with the medical board, obviously it would have to be a very secure sign-in where everyone involved in the complaint has, that's access to this. And at any given time, everyone is accountable to one another by the fact that where everything is in the process is filed online. So I can go and look and see where my case is. The investigator can, you can find out what's happening next with the investigator, what papers have been filed, what's next. So everyone is clearly out and open. And I think this would create a very efficient system because you know exactly what's going to happen next. And also people are accountable to one another. They have to see what the other's doing. And so you're not going to get people wasting time because they know everyone's able to look. And I think personally that would solve a lot of problems and make things run much more efficiently. And I mean, I'd love to talk to you further about that system if you're amenable to it. Thanks.
Thank you, Wendy. Next up, we have Eric Andrus. Eric, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Okay, it's after 7 p.m. and the advocates still haven't been able to address anything that we wanted to talk to on our own. We're still on your agenda. I just wanted to correct something that Carrie Webb said. She was wrong one more time. She said that the board has to get certified records. If you'll all remember in my sister's death case, they did not get a copy of her certified records when they closed the complaint. They got a copy of the records from the doctor in question's lawyer, which could have been changed at any point. They were not certified records from the hospital. So, Carrie, you're wrong again. That doesn't. So how often is this happening where you're not getting actual certified records? As for the online complaint system, I'm not hopeful. I'm really not hopeful that it's going to be helpful at all. MBC doesn't want to be transparent. The Contractor State License Board already puts on their website a timeline of every step of the complaint process. It's already on there. It's been on there for years. I filed a complaint with the Contractor State License Board years ago. I was able to track every step that my complaint went through on their website. It's already happening there. Why can't that just be moved over to the medical board? You're all under the DCA. It's already in existence. That in and of itself would be abundantly helpful to advocates and people who file complaints while we're waiting for this supposed other online tracking system. It's already in existence, guys. Come on, just go over and get it. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Susan Lauren. Susan, are you there?
Yeah, hi, thanks. Once again, I'm going to bring it back to prevention. And also, we're just on a different page completely because Dr. Saulberger assaulted me and caused severe bodily harm, which caused health problems, extreme pain, disability, and disfigurement. My case is res ipsa loquitur. Now, Berger lied in his records, photos, depot, and court and tried to discredit me. The doctor who referred me to Berger refused to examine me or record the harm. If it's not in the record, it, quote, didn't happen. This is a legal veil to protect doctors. Several other unskilled, unethical doctors mistreated me in the following year due to lies and omissions in the records. Some doctors had a vested or professional interest in covering up the medical crime, didn't want to be named as material witnesses, and were quacks. Dr. Yu was the first doctor to do a real exam. He said you were butchered and made an invalid. 10 doctors, including 4 plastic surgeons, agree that Dr. Berger committed surgical battery. All you have to do is look at what I've sent you, look at the video. And so if we're looking at prevention, we need to have patient-approved records. You're having consumers get all these records that are just lies. So it's just, your whole process it's built on a foundation that's not working. And that's what I'd like to have addressed. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. At this time, I don't see any other additional requests in queue.
Thank you, Sean. Are there comments from the board members? All right, should we move on to presentation on the new website agenda item 4?
I'm sorry, Ms. Lawson, if I could make a one comment too. The individual W. Brand, it doesn't look like you're connected to the audio anymore. I can see your hand going up, but you're not connected to the audio, so there's nothing for me to unmute. Maybe even if you were trying to call in or something like that, it looks like you disconnected your audio. If you can go to the audio and video menu up at the top, or there we go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Great.
Sure can.
Great, thank you. I am very disappointed to see online complaint system is put on there, because you cannot, the medical board right now has other agencies being outside investigators, the Attorney General's office.
W, I'm sorry, W, it sounds, I mean, we heard you perfectly, and it sounded like you walked away from whatever was picking up your audio. Could you come back to where you were when you first unmuted?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly. Thank you.
Great. I am very disappointed and not very hopeful on the online tracking system. The fact is, right now, you give priority to those filing 805s, which are usual medical corporations that are required to report. Unless you allow all stakeholders, which are times multiple people, the public and maybe medical corporations, access to these files, it's useless. And the fact is that I don't believe you have enough staff to do the inputting of the information that would need to be online. You don't have online help. And by producing additional videos that are loaded with information that should be just a small paragraph online, you're not giving people the ability to focus in on the specific information. Doing a video that's lengthy, it doesn't work. And the same thing goes for an online tracking system. You don't have the ability to have any control over your investigators. I personally have gone through 8 different investigators. So you can imagine that there's lack of continuity. And then you have the Attorney General's office that is so overworked. And I do not agree with a previous speaker. They are doing the very best they can to handle prosecutions on this case, but they don't input the information on where they are. So once a complaint gets to that stage, who is going to be conveying that information to the complaintee? You don't have the ability to put in when a writ is going to be heard. You don't have the ability to download the documents that were submitted at a court. That's up currently to the individual complaintee to take a wild guess at whatever court these documents could be filed in, to look at them, and if they want to observe the process, hope that they can drive an hour and a half to get to the court that could be hearing that. So it sounds like a great idea to do and provide, but the fact is that you don't have control over the continuity of service and how your complaints move through the line. And Dr. Watkins, or Mr. Watkins, is speaking very specifically to very important points, that by putting in a system that doesn't work or caters to the, a corporate filer who may be very experienced in the system, I'm sure would provide great information. But for the general public, you don't even have on your website information and definition of what happens when a license is revoked. The general public who doesn't speak your language and live in your world, that they're going through this process and they're having these terms and legal hearings and writs filed, and they don't know the definition of these terms, so they can't accurately comment or even observe or participate if they can. So you need to step back and start looking at how you can engage the public in the most basic terms to educate them. Just this meeting alone, I'm blown away that the Brown Act and whoever's running this can't even keep the comments on topic. You're doing business. You're doing business of the state. You're doing business of the medical board. And as grandiose it is to talk about an online access to the process, if the Attorney General is prosecuting and they haven't contacted the complaint, or legal paperwork hasn't been sent to them, then maybe they shouldn't be knowing or know what's going on. You got to pick and choose, but I think you're biting off something way more than you can't facilitate. And it's not productive. It's a waste of your time, and you're frustrating the heck out of the public who's just asking for basic information on your website. Why can't I find out that can a doctor get his license reinstated after being revoked? What's the process if someone's on suspension? How many times can they challenge that, and where do they challenge that, if not at the medical board? How come you're not directing the public to other legal means that your doctors or licensing medical providers can do that are out of your board capability?
Please conclude.
You know, you're just kind of kicking the can down the road, and by the time they get to the end of your road, they're so frustrated. I think a lot of people just give up. So what's the goal here?
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Billy Early.
Hi, hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Billy Early. I'm a physician assistant, healthcare advocate, national advisor for Black Doctors Matter. I think the online complaint form for the citizens and people who want to make complaints against doctors, I think that's a very good idea. I also agree with the other gentleman who said that the will is already created. The Department of Labor, the contractors union or whatever that provides the DCA for contractors, they already have that in place. So I would strongly recommend that the medical board utilize their technology in order to help innovate the medical board online complaints. With that said, I just have one quick comment I would like the medical board to think about. AB 1953 that was passed in 2016 by former Governor Jerry Brown is online complaint process for civilian complaints against peace officers. 85% of the medical board is controlled by these officers. They're peace officers. Now, I got a CPRA, a FOIA, like a Public Records Act, for DMV. They have like 25 or 30 peace officers that work there. One of them was committing fraud. And so I happened to get the process from them for 1953, AB 1953. And to tell you the truth, there was only, they gave me all the records, but there's nothing where the public can complain. There's no, and DMV only had one complaint against one officer in 5 years, which is ridiculous. This is a very, very large police force. The DCA has a very extremely large police force, including a medical board. And these guys are involved in a lot of misconduct. And
Mr. Early?
Yes, this is about online complaints.
Do you have comments about the complaint tracking system?
Yes, the complaint tracking system for AB 1953 that the medical board has to have on their website is not there. There's no way civilians can make complaints. So you guys, the medical board needs to take that into their meeting rooms and make sure that that's there. This online complaint for consumers is very important. Also, against any misconduct by you guys as well, especially the police force you guys have. That's what I'm saying. And I would hope that you guys feel the same way and look at that, because you guys are in violation of AB 1953. And that right there is you guys have to have that on your website. All it is a format of how, when somebody, I've heard of people there say that, you know, some of the officers, the investigators and contractors, right, they was engaged in misconduct. So, but there's no complaints could be made about them because you guys are not compliant with AB 1953. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for having me. And you guys are doing a good job. I know this is not you guys' fault. but you guys got a lot of, a lot of people with a lot of complaints are going to be coming you guys' way. A lot of people have a lot of good stuff, and I want to thank you guys for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. This time, Ms. Lawson, there's no additional public members in queue.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion, comments. All right,
Question.
we move on to the, yeah, please.
Just whether we can make an ability just to have an update on all the quarterly meetings or some other area that the public has access to about where we are in this process.
Thank you. And we will make sure that happens. All right, we have agenda item 4, which is presentation on the new website.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are we ready for?
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Charlotte Clark. I am the manager of the Medical Board's website and ADA remediation team, and I am pleased to present the board's latest website design to you. Let me get up here. Share. Make sure you can see my screen. Now, only the Medical Board of California website was in the scope of this redesign. The DCA search and the Breeze pages hosted by the Department of Consumer Affairs have not changed. This design conforms with the latest web standards established by the California Department of Technology to build user-centered, accessible, and mobile-friendly government websites designed to strengthen the security, usability, accessibility, and quality of State of California websites through standardization and adoption of best practices, fostering a consistent look and feel and a common navigational framework across the government, helping users recognize that they are accessing official State of California information. So we start with a very clean homepage. Let's see if I can mute that. And this is for better ADA compliancy. We've removed excess images and videos to decrease the bandwidth overhead for faster page loads. An alert bar at the top links to a page with the most critical alert information listed without having to have multiple hyperlinks on the homepage, cluttering the homepage. Additionally, it is updated with the latest 3 news items along with a dedicated news archives page. We've expanded a news section where you'll find the Medical Board of news releases, newsletters, public service announcements, and podcasts. The About section is where you still have the information pertaining to the board, including current board members, committees, laws governing the board, and upcoming and past meetings, and each meeting now having its own page of information. An expansion of the consumer section is designed to educate consumers on a variety of topics such as the board's complaint process, what is and is not within the board's jurisdiction, statute of limitations for filing a complaint, the quality of care, physician conduct, and unlicensed practice of medicine. It is currently being rewritten in more of a conversational style by utilizing the Flesch-Kincaid grade level readability to ensure content is written in clear, concise language to be more understandable by consumers. The recommended best practice is writing for a high school sophomore level. The application and licensee sections have been merged into one section titled Licensing. It is designed to be more action-based and categorized by license type, so applicants and licensees do not need to search around to find the information they need. For example, someone wishing to be for information regarding a physician and surgeon's license need only come to one section. All relevant information on how to apply, renew, maintain a license are centrally located, along with practice information regarding that specific license type. The creation of a new enforcement section was designed to compile all enforcement-related topics into one area instead of having the information scattered throughout the old website. It is being enhanced to provide specific information for licensees who have had a complaint filed against them, what to expect during the board's investigation process, as well as probation-related information for licensees who have been placed on probation with the board. A designated resources section contains all of the board's forms, brochures, publications, statistics, and medical resources to provide additional information on various topics, like how to choose a doctor or obtain copies of your medical records. We have developed a frequently asked questions repository. All frequently asked questions have been consolidated into a single section where the most asked questions are displayed by default, but a wide variety of topics are available to search or browse. We have a faster contact us routing system with a feature to send a message to the board. By selecting a message topic and by selecting a specific topic and completing the form, I'm routed immediately to the unit responsible for that topic instead of our webmaster having to receive all of the email requests and forward them to the appropriate unit multiple times today. So this concludes my presentation on the board's new website design. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Dr. Hawkins, just a comment. So I've looked at the website. It's a lot of stuff there. And I think we need a video about how to navigate it. There's a lot of information there. And we can spend a lot of time going from place to place. I appreciate the amount of information that's available, but I think that if truly a sophomore level is required, some folks have some difficulty. But I think my basic thing is about the layout and how to navigate it. So folks who want to find information can find it.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Any additional?
Please. Now on the new website, will the timelines for posting these board meetings be quicker? And also, did you remove any of the existing information, or did you just transplant? Is all the information that was on the previous site still on the site?
Sorry, Mr. Watkins, can I just clarify your question about the timeline for posting meetings? I'm not sure I understood your question.
So the videos of these meetings, the timeline, will it be shorter now that we have a more efficient website? And whether any of the information has been removed, or is it still in the same place?
Great, thank you for that clarification. I thought you meant the agendas, and so I'm glad I asked you to clarify. And Charlotte, is that something you can speak to?
Yes, I can. The information that was on the old site, a lot of it was rewritten, especially in the applicants and licensees section, because again, we were making it very action-based. But we did have a page-by-page to make sure either the information was still relevant and it made it over into the new site, or if it was completely irrelevant or no longer needed, then we did take it off of the site. But again, then the content's going to continue to be rewritten as we go along.
And maybe I could help with Mr. Watkins' question about the posting of the videos after the meetings. On our quarterly board meetings, when we have, sometimes upwards of 16 hours of video, there's a long process of trimming and editing those videos, uploading them actually to YouTube, letting them process to produce closed captions for ADA requirements, and then posting to our website. We are aware it does take longer than the old days of literally just pasting the Ustream code back in and letting it display the same video that was previously broadcasted, but these new ADA requirements take a little bit longer, and given staff processing time, a short meeting like this, we can usually get done quicker than the longer quarterly board meetings, but right after the meeting ends, basically when we're able to download the video the following day, we do start working on processing those videos.
Great, thank you. Additional comments or questions? Members of the public have comments or questions on the website?
So the Q&A window and the hand raising function are still open. For anyone wishing to make a public comment, please go ahead and queue up there. First up, we have Christina Hildebrand. Christina, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Christina Hildebrand, Voice for Choice Advocacy. in my real life job, not on my nonprofit job, I do market research and specifically user design research. So I was very curious when I got on the website this week to try and find the agenda and the meeting information, and couldn't really find it. Again, I'm going to come back to, the medical board is spending money, and I wonder if you did any research at all as to what the highest traffic links were, and put because you're right, the front page is completely cleaned up and there's really nothing that's clickable on there. And so, when I do research, market research, user experience research for top companies in Silicon Valley, one of the things they look at is, what are the most clickable things? What do you need to have on that first top half of the page that doesn't scroll down yet? What do you need to have on that page? It's a lovely picture that's there, but it's really not any useful information, or very little useful information, other than the little lines that get me to the next place. I would not have thought to look in About for the meeting information. About is about the board, about your information. I get it may be about when you're having meetings, but it's not where I would have expected it to be. And again, I just feel like if you're spending money on this, spend money wisely and do it right. So that's my comment. I will say, having criticized that, just because that's my wheelhouse, I will say I'm thankful that you're having these public advocacy meetings, and that we actually get to speak to you, and I feel like you're listening. So, which does not happen at regular board meetings. So I'm really, really thankful for these. Having said that, I'll echo what somebody said before. This is your agenda, and yes, you're getting feedback from us on it, but it's really your agenda. And I really liked, the last public advocacy meeting where we each got to share our thoughts and where we would like to see the board listen to consumers. And I really hope that you don't just have a quarterly public advocacy meeting that is specific to your agenda, and that we are allowed to share our input again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have W. Brand. W, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. One thing that I echo the previous caller, looking at this, the first thing that consumers want to know is contact information, and it's buried in a thin green line at the very top. It's almost like you don't want the public to contact you. I think that priority needs to be given to who your consumer is and how they use it. And to be quite honest, I don't think you realize or even know who your consumer is. It's like you're having an identity crisis. Is this website, is your primary focus going to be on medical doctors and ease of renewal of license, or so forth? Is this going to be used by consumers? And you need to prioritize where that information is. It's very confusing. The information on the meetings, there's no information on how to use WebEx. If you're not a WebEx person, it takes quite a bit to get into there, and what your options are of communicating to the board. I think that needs to be clarified, and there is no phone numbers, and maybe that's on purpose, because you don't want the public to be calling in to, let's say, a complaint hotline or enforcement. And probably most of all is your title for medical board. You're never going to change your title, but the consumer so many times winds up at your board or making a complaint, and they're in the wrong place because you don't serve them. The Department of Consumer Affairs is such a large organization. It would be really good for a clarifying statement of who you serve and if someone, many times, a medical board complaint involving a doctor also possibly involves a nurse or possibly involves a hospital or medical facility. And those are all separate, different complaint process. And the consumers are so overwhelmed that they don't realize, like myself, that you have to file with all those different agencies separately. So it would be nice to somewhere in the complaint process to maybe have a list of, who to contact for other agencies, because it's not clear in the Department of Consumer Affairs division. And I myself have spent hours trying to find other appropriate boards to submit complaints to as they relate to my initial complaint to the medical board. So thank you for your time, and I hope that you have a more transparent public process, and I hope that you're able to clear up your postings of your meetings, because most public meetings have public comment time for something that's not on the agenda, and you don't. And maybe that's the type of meeting you're having or the format, but it should also be clarified to encourage public process. And also, that would help alleviate inappropriate time and comments on items that you're hearing on an agenda, and to channel those comments specifically only to the agenda item. They'd be more productive, and you would maybe have more people participating and viewing your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Eric Andrews. Eric, are you there?
Actually, no, I didn't say that I wanted to comment, so I'll pass.
Oh, I'm sorry, you had posted something in the question and answer. We'll move ahead to Susan Lauren. Susan, are you there?
Yeah, hi. I agree with the two women that just spoke. I knew that this was going to be an agenda item, so I, browsed around, and I did find it difficult to navigate. I had trouble finding the meeting information, and then just by browsing, I found something that I hadn't seen before, where the medical board mentions to doctors not to panic if they're if they get a complaint against them. And that really struck me, obviously, that you're telling doctors not to panic, that, this is just the process. And it's interesting because no one's telling people that have been violated anything like that. Also, I looked up the surgeon who assaulted me, Dr. Saul Berger. And of course, there's nothing on your website. The most important information on the medical board is if someone's looking for a doctor and they look someone up and he looks just fine and groovy on there. So if I was in the position that I was in 10 years ago and I did the exact same thing at that time, I looked on your board. It was one of the first things I did, and there were no complaints and no problems. So when you don't have information to give to the public that Dr. Saul Berger assaulted and disabled me and lied about it, fabricated records, on and on, you should know my story by now, then really what good is anything on the website? Also, I looked up Dr. Terry Dubrow, who is an expert for your board. No information that he came and lied in the trial, and that the way he swayed my jury was by telling them that he's an expert for the Medical Board of California. Someone earlier, I'm glad that she feels heard. I mean that truly. I don't feel heard because we have an epidemic going on of doctors harming men and women, but primarily healthy young women. And by young, I don't necessarily mean 20, although they're harming 20-year-olds. They're harming people in the prime of their life for no reason. And this has to stop. So I didn't see anything on the board that if I was in that position would give me the actual information. Oh, there's one more thing. I also, by looking around, I found some previous meeting notes, and a massage therapist of mine, because I have to, it's not like a relaxing massage. I have missing parts of my body because of what Berger did. And so
she has to come stretch out the remaining parts. It's very painful. She works with me every week and has worked with me for several years. She called the medical board a few years ago, January 2018, you can look it up, Nika Avila. And she took her time in between her clients to call the board and to tell you that she's never seen anything like this in her 2 decades of doing massage, and that I've got these missing body parts. And in the minutes, I'm going to send to the board, I'll send you the exact, she gave me her, I don't know if she gave it or I actually listened and transcribed from the video, but I have word for word what she said, and then I have what was written on the board. And it's very interesting because it reminded me of medical records where the actual meat, the important part of what she said, was removed from her statement. And that should be of more concern. I mean, yes, it is of concern. We need to find the meeting and everything, but the fact that you're actually not doing your basic job to protect the public is, I mean, and okay, I'm going to end, and I want to say again, thank you, TJ. Really, thank you so much, because I don't feel heard much at all. And when I see you on the board, and I feel that you're giving a voice to me, there's no words from me to tell you how much that means. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Marion Hollingsworth. Marion, please go ahead.
Hello, here I am. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Marion Hollingsworth. I'm a patient safety advocate. First, I have one more quick question about the video. Why didn't you ask advocates and consumers about what they would want on the video before making it? Why wait until after it's been made to ask us for feedback? Now that you have an unhelpful video because you failed to ask people that it affects first. Now for the new website. While this website may look pretty, it's far from user-friendly. And again, why did no one on the board ask for suggestions from advocates before launching this new website? You had a trial run with volunteers before launching the phone app a couple of years ago, so why not for this website? The first thing I did going on it was look at the doctor profile pages and was dismayed to find out there had been no changes whatsoever. There's no obvious warning that a doctor has been disciplined or why in easy terms to understand. The summary does still not say what the doctor did. Consumers still have to wade through pages of legal documents to find out what a doctor did to get in trouble. A couple years ago, we had been assured by the previous executive director that the font would be made larger, but that did not happen. This makes it difficult for the elderly or people with vision problems to read this information. Going on from there, the public documents page that used to be prominent on the home page is now hidden under the enforcement tab. Even the meeting page has been moved to the About tab, and we have to search harder for information on previous meetings and panel hearings. I had a reporter call me just yesterday asking whether the Excel spreadsheet for disciplinary actions had been canceled because he couldn't find it anywhere. After some perusing, I was finally able to find it for him, hidden under resources and then under publications. The search bar also does not reveal these disciplinary lists or other subjects I attempted, and most people will never be able to find them because they're just basically so hard to find. A friend of mine with a master's in education and a solid knowledge of computers contacted me to find out why her doctor suddenly surrendered his license. This is a person who had issues with the board's websites, and if this person had issues with the board's new website, a less tech-savvy person would be totally lost. It seems to me that you made these website changes to fool the legislature into thinking that you were just trying to help consumers. What you don't understand is that the people just want to know if their doctor is safe. They will give up if the information is not easily found. And what Charlotte mentioned about making it easier for doctors, why can't you also make it easier for consumers? We should return to the drawing board to make the website more consumer friendly and actually put clear information in a larger font that will make it easier to know if a doctor is dangerous. Stop putting lipstick on this website page. You can do better to help consumers. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Hannah Reed. Hannah, are you there?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. So when I first saw the new website, the colors were nice, but I wasn't sure if they were trying to sell me paper products or building or what. So as we all know, we're here for the patients. And it was just disappointing and ironic to see that there weren't any photos or pictures of people. You know, we're in the business of saving lives, you know, and so I was very disappointed in seeing that. And I also agree with the other speaker that it was difficult to find where the meeting times were. It's not easy to navigate. So I just wanted to add that I'm very disappointed to see that it's, you know, it's not easy to navigate, but also there's no people on the front. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Virginia Farr. Virginia?
Hello, I agree with all the other people who spoke. I think it's hard to navigate and I wish that we had more input in it. But also this agenda doesn't include what we want. It's supposed to be a forum for us, but then it's your agenda and we have stuff that we want to discuss and we can't because of information like this. So we've been complaining about liposuction and falsification of medical records and other patient safety things, and we have yet to have a meeting for that. And also there's not a patient safety committee in your group. So that's concern. And we were talking about trauma-informed care before, and I never got a response. I never got a response about the medical records. And so you ask us to write us, and then we hear nothing from you. So that's not trauma-informed. And lastly, your logo here says protecting customers by advancing high quality, safe medical care. My view of what you're doing is holding back a tsunami with a broken shovel shackled to the CMA is what it seems like you're doing on my end. I don't think you're advancing high quality, safe medical care because you're too busy putting out fires. And you know, I might be wrong, but that's what it looks like to us. And we keep on getting hurt, and to see this on the website, it doesn't feel like that. And every single illness I had, PubMed and my own research figured out what was wrong, not my doctor. I had to figure out a doctor that can take care of the PubMed I found. And one of them took 3 years. Another one took a year. And another one took several years. And every single doctor, including 160 visits in 2009 to 2010, I had to figure it out myself. So I don't like seeing you're not protecting us. And that's it. I appreciate the work you do, especially Mr. Watkins, who sticks up for us and keeps advocating for us. And thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Michelle Montserrat Ramos. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm Michelle Montserrat Ramos, and I'm with Consumer Watchdog. I haven't had the time this week to really take a look at your website, but what I've noticed thus far is the website is not easy to navigate. First, the meetings are hidden in this new format. I have to direct advocates and families to the current agenda to find a link within the agenda in order to register for the meeting. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? The meetings need to be placed back on the home page. I now need to go to 3 places to find the meetings and the meeting agendas. It is more difficult for families and advocates to find these meeting agendas in order to participate in these meetings. It should be easier to find and not more difficult. This is telling me and your constituents who are California families that you don't want them to participate in your meetings. The problem is that the emphasis is on the licensing section and not on what the public needs to know. Your constituents are families and consumers, not just doctors. The public documents. When I clicked on a link within the email alerts, I could find the public document. When I entered the provider's name in the public document section, I could not find the public document. In regards to uploading the videos from the quarterly public meetings, It takes 3 weeks for you to upload the videos. I really don't know why you need to edit these videos. The public needs information from your quarterly meetings immediately. It's really not needed 3 weeks later. The legislature can post their videos in their archive immediately. If the legislature can post their videos immediately, I really think you can also. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Anne Fuqua. Anne, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay. I definitely understand the frustration that people are having as far as like the new website. You know, if you're not a computer whiz, it definitely is confusing. But I don't see I don't see people on this board that are trying to trick patients, consumers, you know, not wanting, you know, I don't.
Anne, we're having a real hard time hearing you. You're breaking up. Is there anywhere you can go? You have a better connection, or call in on a different, you know, switch to a phone audio?
Is that better? Is that better?
Try again.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yeah, let's try this. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. If not, I'll call in later. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's going in and out, but yeah, we can.
Okay. If it gets worse, I'll just call back later. But and do the call in. But I feel like, you know, the computer stuff, that's complicated. It's something that, you know, you need the right contractor, you know, or group of people, and it takes, you know, a lot of thought, you know, into that. But you know, the one thing that I do see that I think you know, that I think is an issue that a lot of people have mentioned, you know, is the issue related to the, you know, the public stakeholder meetings being the time that the public, you know, is supposed to be able to bring, you know, bring to the board issues that are important, you know, to us as individuals. And California has, I think, probably different than almost any other state besides maybe Florida, a tremendous issue, you know, with malpractice related to, you know, related to plastic surgery. You can just hear the suffering, you know, that has you know, that has brought about. And there's, I think, probably, but you know, because that, you know, is, I feel like that has probably, you know, it seems like that's become almost all consuming. And I see that y'all, or to me, from my perspective, I think, you know, it seems like this is a group of people that are, you know, are just heavily burdened with work. They're trying, you know, their very best to get done as quickly, you know, as quickly and correctly as possible, but just not, you know, it's not for lack of, you know, not for lack of wanting to help, but yet these complaints are, you know, are taking a lengthy amount of time. And, you know, but what I would, you know, say is that, you know, Kristen Ogden and I have, again, you know, things take time, but we have, you know, we've been coming to the meetings, you know, yeah, whenever we, yeah, since about December. She's the other paying patient that, or spouse of a paying patient that comes frequently. And, you know, the situation with, you know, is just, has gotten, you know, is getting progressively worse, you know, over the past year, you know, for patients, for access to care. And, you know, lives are being, you know, lost, and people are missing out on their lives. And, you know, I recognize, you know, there's only so much anybody can do in a day, but this is, you know, this is just something that you know, desperately needs addressing. Just as, yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Do you have comments on the website?
I'm done. But all I was was going along with was just what other people were saying about how the stakeholder meetings, they thought, were supposed to be, for the public to bring up what was an issue for them. And I guess have been long-winded, but it's just with the echo in the background, it's hard to talk. But I'm done.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Genevieve Clabril.
Yes. Yeah, I think maybe one thing we need to do is that have more patient advocate and have those individuals really trained to be the patient advocate. I know myself, I am a patient advocate, but every time when I have had to deal in a hospital and contact the physician and say, I am the patient advocate and I have a document, from the patient that I am the patient advocate. Many physicians are not open to that at all. And I think maybe we could alleviate a lot of the problem if there was more advertised and we had more people trained to be patient advocate. Myself, I am in RN and I've been in RN for 40 years and I have done a lot of work in research at the same time. I am very sophisticated when it comes to the care of the patient receive. And it's always very difficult to have physicians accept you as such. Most of the time I am, because I focus on USC, UCLA, and Huntington, where people know me well and so on. But that should not be the case. We should, I think we should emphasize more, and I think we should train people to be patient advocate. And so we are not so much in antagonistic, relationship. And today, when I listen a lot of the anger, I am very concerned because when you have that, not many good things happen. The issue, a couple of individuals mentioned about medical record. I think that one thing that patients should have more access to medical record. And when there is a wrong statement in a medical record, it should be more easy to have it changed and redacted. So, but anyway, those are my 2 cents for the day. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Susan Lauren.
I think I already spoke on this topic. I'm sorry, I was just thanking that person that was mentioned plastic surgery being a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Alka Ari.
Hi there. I just wanted to echo a couple comments about poor navigation on the website. I also had difficulty locating the meeting information and the agenda, and I think that would have been better to have located more prominently on the website. I was just spending some time going through the website and I was surprised to find a lot of inaccurate information. And so I hope that you would take a closer look at content because several areas were were just plain false. I stumbled across a flowchart, a one-page flowchart about the complaint process, which I thought was something that could be highlighted better on the website. And I saw that was also quite difficult to understand and didn't accurately display the entire complaint process. I'm a numbers person, so I was immediately attracted to statistics and the data you present. I thank you for presenting that information. However, it is very difficult to follow. For example, there's one tab on providing data on timing for complaints in the process, the average and the median, but it doesn't state the number of days. I'm assuming it's days, but there's no label on the data. And I think that's important to put on a graph. So I just wanted to point out there's quite a bit of content that needs refining, and I hope someone is actively looking at that. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. At this time, there are no additional questions queued.
Thank you. I'm going to bring it back to the board, and I wanted to just clarify, and I perhaps should have done this at the beginning of the meeting. The topics that were selected for this evening's agenda were topics that were brought up at previous meetings, both at the previous stakeholder meeting and at other meetings of the board that were of interest to the stakeholders. So the complaint process video, tracking system, and presentation of the new website. That's why we wanted to make sure we were communicating the information that the board had on those issues back to the stakeholders. I do, before we adjourn, I want to offer the stakeholders who have joined us this evening the opportunity to offer any additional closing remarks, comments, suggestions for future meetings. And again, as I did at the outset of the meeting, I want to acknowledge the awkwardness of having a meeting like this in a WebEx format. I know it's imperfect, and we want to improve. If you have suggestions about how we can improve in this format, and with the restrictions that are placed on us as board members when we have these meetings, I am all ears, and I know my fellow board members are as well. Before we reopen the public comment Q&A, I do just want to ask, is there anything closing on the website that board members want to offer before I open it back up for public comment? All right, so before we adjourn, I would encourage the members, or the stakeholders that have joined us this evening to offer any suggestions for future meetings. I have heard your suggestions for improving the meetings already, but I'm interested in hearing any additional ones that you have, or anything you'd like to hear about or like us to know about.
Okay, the Q&A window is open again, and the hand raising function has been reactivated. If you'd like to speak on the future agenda items, please go ahead and queue up. First up, we have W. Brand. W, please go ahead.
Thank you. One thing that I really noticed, to participate in a public meeting and make comments according to the Brown Act and the Bagley keynote, you're not required to identify yourself or log in. So WebEx is a very different format because all that information is out there. You don't have a means for someone who doesn't have a computer that just wants to dial in or whatever. It's very, very awkward. You should have some kind of help, even though there is a video that goes through the explanation. The font on that, when you go into that area, is so small, and the visuals on that are so difficult, it's not clear. Someone who is using this for the very first time, just the format of how to raise your hands. The board has the ability to put a tutorial online that shows a photo of the screen, how to mute, how to choose your audio, how to raise your hand, and how to lower it. Why you're not facilitating the public to communicate to you better to save you time, I don't get it. It kind of goes with the priorities of the website and priorities of the medical board. You need to facilitate communication in order to understand how you can do your job better. And that goes down to the very basics. Just in the website alone, it's bad. It's really bad. And it appears that you don't even have a professional consulting you. And this doesn't take a rocket scientist. I'm sure that a subcommittee of people who would love to give you input on this, that would make it better. And I just encourage you to do things differently, because quite frankly, I'm very disappointed. And as a public, I don't have much hope. If the board is saying that these videos are wonderful, that's shocking to not have comment and criticism and comments of improvement for the website is disappointing. The board members, you there to represent the public. Most of the public doesn't have the time to participate and bother. And when the public is not encouraged or facilitated to communicate their needs to you, it's a lost cause. So please do better. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Hannah Ree. Hannah, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hannah Ree here with Black Patients Matter. I want to first thank Ms. Lawson for doing a really great job of facilitating tonight. This is just really uncharted territory for the medical board, I know. So thank you very much for doing a great job. One thing I'd like to have on the agenda is to discuss the complainant's view on this question. Ask the complainant, what does justice look like for you? And so to answer that question, it seems as though that it needs to be somewhat individualized. The law is not meant to be individualized for the patient, for the complainant. The law is very cold, actually. But something like mediation by nonprofit organizations who want to bring about justice for justice, peace, and closure for loved ones, for patients that have been injured. It is a place where the rules can be somewhat flexible, malleable to suit each complainant. And so most people don't know this, is that, so for example, when a doctor gets a complaint filed against them, the medical malpractice insurance has a budget, gives the doctor a budget of $60,000 to defend himself, okay? Most people don't know that, but I'll just tell you the truth. That money can be utilized towards mediation. Mediation would probably only cost like maybe $5,000, $10,000. And then maybe the patient would say, well, if the doctor would donate money to a worthy cause or plant trees or do something for the environment, maybe that would feel like closure. So I again would please ask the medical board to consider discussing and elaborating upon mediation, bringing about peace, love, and joy and closure to these patients. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Virginia Farr. Virginia?
Hi, I want to thank you for sorry, that came out wrong. I want to thank all of you, including the doctors, for taking your time and doing this with us, because it really does mean a lot. And you've been hearing a lot of negative stuff, but I do really appreciate you taking the time to be here and hearing us. So just a moment to say that. And just for Hannah Reed's thing, justice for me at the beginning would have just been protocols put in place so nobody experienced what I experienced. That's simply all I wanted. And instead, my records were falsified and they made a $20,000 error into $1 million error. So enough about that topic, because that's not the topic we're discussing. So what I would like on future agendas was, one, how are you guys going to handle this crisis you're in? Because you're in a crisis. If you don't know you're in a crisis, you are in a crisis. What can we do to prevent medical errors from happening in the first place? A patient safety committee and trauma-informed care and the falsification of medical records that are doing a lot more harm, and transparency. And Susan has been talking about liposuction time and time and time and time and time again. So it'd be nice for her to be able to explain her information without being rushed, to actually be heard and validated, as part of trauma-informed care is being validated and progress made, so this doesn't hurt other people. So those are my top ones. and I'll let other people talk. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Eric Andrews. Eric, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Public comment not on the agenda should always start every meeting. This format was a slap in our faces and a waste of our time. It says to us, we're going to only talk about things we approve of, even if it's things that we'll talk about at the quarterly meetings anyway. You could put all of these items that we talked about today under one agenda item, just like you do the president's speech at the quarterly meeting. You do not have to agendize every single one separately, Christina. That's not true. One agenda item, and briefly cover them in 15 minutes, not take the whole meeting to do it. You essentially took away every bit of time that the advocates came to this meeting to talk to you guys about, because you controlled the agenda and put items on there that we were not prepared to talk about, that we did not want to talk about, that we did not ask to talk about. If this is how you're going to treat us, I'm recommending to all of my fellow advocates not to participate until the meetings are about us and not what Bill Prasifka wants to control. These meetings were meant so you could hear us clearly, since we're often stifled at the quarterly meetings. Marion's point that you didn't consult advocates on the videos and the website prove that you don't care about our opinions, and the format of the meeting cements that attitude. You're not caring about us. You can talk till you're blue in the face about how you care about what consumers want, but this meeting and the fact that you didn't consult us on the video and the new website proves, you guys, that you don't care about us. You care about yourselves. You care about the medical board and patting each other on the back. You're not listening to us. You're placating us. You're pretending like you care about us. And you're doing the same thing when you talk to the legislature at the Sunset Review. You're making it sound like you care about this stuff. It's baloney. We know you. We've got your ticket. We've seen what you guys are doing. And TJ's on to you too. It's all coming to a head. The reporters are coming to us in droves now, and we're going to continue to expose all of this baloney that you're trying to pull over our eyes. You're trying to pull the wool over our eyes, and it's not going to continue. You've got to stop, and until it does, I recommend that all the advocates stop participating in these meetings until you're willing to listen to us, not your egos. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Christina Hildebrand. Christina, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Christina Hildebrand, Voice for Choice Advocacy. So I had said this previously, but I want to reiterate it. I really, I think it's fine having agenda items. I think you misheard us. I think many of us wanted to talk about the complaints process and how it works, but these 3 agenda items were not fulfilling of that. I think number 1, hopefully what you heard this evening is talk to us before you do anything. There are 6, 7 organizations that are at every single meeting, at every single board meeting, or nearly everyone, the ones that we can all get to. But it's not a lot of people that are asking to have input. Get our input before you do stuff, rather than after the fact, and make sure that the agenda items. My recommendation is send us a survey and list out what you've heard. You've heard us. We've said it over and over. What different people want to talk about. What different people want to put forward, and ask us maybe to put forward presentations. I would love to give you a presentation on my issues. I'm pretty sure that Susan and Eric and everyone else would love to give you a presentation on our issue, so that you can really hear and understand where we're coming from. So that's my request. I really, I agree. This could have been put on the regular agenda, the regular board meeting. You didn't need our input. We could have given you public comment the same way as we always do. It wasn't a discussion. It wasn't what we wanted when we were talking about complaints. None of these 3 fulfill that. Thank you.
Public comment. Next up, we have Susan Lauren. Susan.
Hi. Um, so as far as success goes, to me, it seems really straightforward. When you have a scam procedure, it needs to stop. When you have laws like liposuction code 1356.6 that the Board of Anesthesiologists stated does not prevent patient death, that needs to be changed. When a surgeon mutilates someone, assaults them, he needs to be out of practice. When someone covers up for him, he needs to be out of practice, he or she, whoever it is. I think planting trees is a lovely thing, but when you're harmed as much as I am, and a lot of people are that I know, peace, love, and joy. I mean, I'm worried about being homeless. And when you have a doctor when you have an expert that comes and lies in court based on his medical board credentials, this needs to stop. I would love to give a presentation on the bad things that adipose removal causes. And yes, there's a spectrum of harm. Certainly people come out of a procedure where they have some kind of adipose tissue removed and they're very happy with it. Now that might be short-lived. There's often, so anyway, I don't want to give the presentation now, but I've shared a lot about it. And I definitely want this because I don't want people to continue to be harmed. And let me see. I just want people to stop hiding behind certifications and their, fancy schools that they went to and thinking that they know. The people that really know are the ones that are harmed and that are living it. And the cover-ups are truly cruel and misogynistic, and it fuels future scams. So I'm in it for as long as I can. This is the last thing I'm going to say, but if you've seen the video, and I sent it to all the board members, I ask you to see it again, because there's no way that was standard of care or even a mistake. It was an assault. And until you get this surgeon out of practice, you're not protecting the public. And the way that I sound is last time I said it was embarrassing to me, and I want to take that back because it's not my fault. The people that should be embarrassed about, because I'm a completely different person than I was before. I was a public speaker. I was the person that people came to get relaxed and to get calmed. And I've given over 30,000 myofascial sessions. I was at the top of my career and a teacher. And then I'm harmed, and people in the medical field, because of it's just really an evil system right now. It really is. And so they're acting like I don't know anything about not only my own body, but the body. This has to stop. It's cruel. Anyway, I do thank you for your time, and I want to thank all the advocates. And I think that some of you on the board want to do the right thing and don't know how to do yet. The last thing that I want to say is that there's that movie out there, the documentary sponsored by a medical device company that presents harmful cosmetic surgery in a misleading way. And it's just, someone was misled. It's not, when an audience watches a movie, they take it in. I've thought about it every day since I learned about it. When I talk to other women harmed in these ways, everyone's outraged, but they're trying to get lawsuits. They're in too much trauma. There's so many people that I speak for, and I don't want to be in this position, but I am. And there's so many people that are harmed, and much less than me, and their lives are ruined. There's people that have tried to commit suicide that I know, and they were not suicidal people before. It's just, I'm looking forward to change happening, and I hope I'm going to die early from this. Burger harmed me that much, and when I do, I really think that you should look at my case as a murder, because I'm just taking a long time to die. It's really bad. I'm not exaggerating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up, we have Marion Hollingsworth. Marion?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak. I'm going to repeat what some of my fellow advocates said, is that to listen to us first. I was dismayed to see that William Pacifica was chosen to speak about SB 806 at the hearing on it, since this is a conflict of interest. Sunsetting the bill would directly affect his job. So his interest in 806 would have been more about his job and now about making the board better to protect patients. I would also like the board to speak to us advocates as often as you speak to the CMA. Ask us about the website and app changes. We can give you good input that will ultimately make you look better and help you do your job better at keeping consumers safe. I think you underestimate what a lot of us have in the way of experience, but for some of us, we read every single discipline, every single accusation that comes out. And we know patterns, we see how they're changing, and we see that they're changing in a more lenient fashion. And we noticed this even before TJ Watkins hit it. Talk to us, we can help you. And we want to make this better for not only for the medical board, but also for consumers to keep us all safer. Thank you.
Thanks for your public comment. At this time, there are no additional questions to you.
Thank you, Sean. And I'm going to bring it back to the board and ask for any final comments from board members before I adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chair, this is TJ. I think, listening this evening to all the feedback, I really think that it was important for us to have this. I know the public, the patient advocates, they feel like, they wasted their time. But it was really important to demonstrate and show how we have misread this process, we as the board. Because I sit through these meetings like all of my fellow board members, because we actually want to see what is being said, the heartfelt stories by Susan Lauren. And it's not that I personally don't underestimate anybody that has spoken and their expertise. I can hear that they have spent a lot of time with the material, and I have spent a lot of time with the material as well. That's why I recognize it. But here's the takeaway for me. If we are not going to give the patient advocates their space and their due time to influence this board, then the board is pretty much just going to be around the same, do the same thing over and over and over. And right now, that thing that is over and over and over has a distinct taste that we are protecting the doctors. We've got statistics to prove that. We've got all of it. I hate to hear people saying they lost faith. In many moments, I have lost faith too. But I come back because I trust the people on this board, my fellow board members, that we are still capable of doing the right thing. So I want to give a heartfelt thanks to my board members and to the patient advocates for giving us an opportunity to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Are there any other comments from board members?
I'd also, want to reiterate what TJ just said about the importance of holding space, and that being the intention of creating these stakeholder meetings and getting back to that space that I know was not intentional to, to not leave that space today, but there's a difference between presenting finished products and then asking for reaction versus being able to be collaborative about the opportunities to have feedback from folks that are obviously very invested in this and have spent a lot of time and energy in trying to help us be better. So I look forward to our next meetings, maybe not presenting things that are already baked and holding space for being able to work with feedback, ask for feedback, and have our agendas be reflective of that.
Thank you, Ms. Campoverde. Additional comments?
Ms. Lawson, is Dr. Thorpe.
Dr. Thorpe?
First of all, I want to tell you thank you personally for the work you put in to try to make this meeting meaningful to all of us. It's been a very difficult meeting. Been very difficult to listen and hear the degree of perceived failure And I think that we're on a very I'm not quite sure where we stand. You know, this process that we deal with discipline is a very complicated process, and it's not done. I think every one of us that serves on a panel does it with the utmost integrity, trying to do the right thing. And we are certainly not in a place where we're trying to create an outcome. It may be perceived that way, but that's not the intent. And there is concern on my part that we are, it is very important to have the input from the public stakeholders. It's extremely important. But it is an input. It is not the only input. And we need to be cognizant of that as a board, that we maintain the integrity of the board and not be overly influenced by one segment of the input. And that's all. I would just say we have to maintain our integrity. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thorpe. Additional comments?
I just want to leave on a good note and say I agree we have to maintain our integrity, and I also think we have to maintain our humility as a board working for consumers.
Thank you for that.
Madam Chair, I just want to comment. I think it's very important for us to kind of get this. This is an important thing. If we have an intention that we want to do good, and the feedback that we are getting is that we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing, then I think we have a responsibility to actually go closer and look at it even more closer. This is not a degree of perceived failure when people are calling in that have been harmed, when we countlessly hear that, when we countlessly hear the same thing over and over again about the operations where things have gone wrong in the enforcement process. I think when we do that, we're not building trust. What we are building is an adversarial position. And if we want to build good faith, then there's three ways that we can build trust. Right now, we can start by developing processes that are very competent and demonstrate such competence. Tonight, the feedback was that we weren't very competent because we weren't collaborative. The next thing is about being honest. If we are not being honest in all our dealings and transparent, we cannot expect that they trust us. We cannot expect the public to trust us. When our care, the third thing is our benevolence. If we don't care, we demonstrate that we care about people by giving a voice and an action to their heartfelt pain, then I guess we're never going to build trust. But I'm hopeful that we can. I'm sitting through all of this like the patient advocates and the doctors and all of us on here because I believe we can. We just have to work through this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. And with that, I am going to adjourn the meeting because we're well over an hour over our scheduled time. I want to thank all of the public stakeholders for joining the meeting tonight, for offering their comments. As you've heard, we appreciate it. We do appreciate hearing from you. I also want to let the public stakeholders know that they should feel free to contact me, contact Dr. Hawkins, who's the vice chair of the board as well, or any of the board members at any time outside of these meetings as well, if you have input that you'd like to share with one of us individually. And thank you to staff as well, and to all the board members for sticking through this meeting. Like I said, we went an hour over time. So thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.